Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNate at BloodyElbow.com. I'm coming here to talk about something I didn't want to talk about, a topic I find incredibly tedious and awful and depressing, and that's domestic violence and as it intersects with mixed martial arts. I'm talking about this for two reasons. I'm not going to lie to you. Reason number one is because it gets traffic and people are interested in it. I'm in the business of getting people's attention. I'm not going to lie about that. That's what I do. That's what we do at BloodyElbow.com. We talk about things people want to hear about. Cage fighting is our beat. And a story like this, War Machine, is a horrific assault, alleged horrific assault on Christy Mack. I have to say that for legal reasons because he has not been convicted of any crime, and it's a serious thing to accuse someone of the kind of assault that Christy Mack has suffered, at least from the extent of her injuries. And I believe the evidence she's posted on Twitter of her photos and her hospitalization, absolutely horrific attack, unconscionable. War Machine hopefully will have a chance to make his case in court. That's the only place he should be talking about it, is in court, under oath, in front of witnesses, not on Twitter, nowhere else. Anyway, I want to stick to my point. I want to try to be organized about this because this is serious shit, and I want to be real about this. Second reason I'm talking about this is because our readers and viewers are so appallingly ignorant on these topics. And I forgive you. We're all ignorant. We're all dumbasses. We're learning every day, and most of you guys are young. Most of you guys are men. And you just don't know any better when you talk about this shit. You have not experienced. You have not seen. You don't have daughters. Maybe you don't have the capacity to sympathize with the predicament of somebody who's part of the weaker sex, quote unquote. And it's a reality. It's physically true. Most men are bigger and stronger than most women. Most men are also more aggressive than most women. As Eugene Robinson pointed out in our last show, the episode of Intrigue where we talked about war crimes in Ukraine, Poland, and Belarus, they're almost all committed by men. Men are the troublemakers in our society, in our species. That's just a fact. Women are capable of evil as evil as they are of greatness, just like men are. However, facts are facts. Most violent acts are committed by men. So, something to think about there. Part of it is bigger and stronger. Responsibility comes with being bigger and stronger. And when you're somebody who's a professional mixed martial artist like John Copenhaver, I'm not going to call him War Machine because it's bullshit and stupid, and I'm not going to play into his bullshit and stupidity. Somebody like John Copenhaver has a responsibility that comes with that kind of power of being a trained mixed martial artist. If you saw the Roger Huerta street fight video where he beat up a former professional NFL linebacker who outweighed him by 50 pounds or more, and it was like a predator and prey. Huerta stalked him and stomped him. It was like a tiger attacking a gazelle or a cheetah attacking a gazelle. It was not a fair fight. And this was a 250-something pound man. This wasn't a woman who's half his size. Copenhaver has a huge size advantage over Christy Mack. He's also a trained professional fighter. She's not. The fact that he would raise his hand against her in anything but the most stark self-defense situation, as in she's pointing a gun at his head, and even then I wouldn't advise attacking her. I would advise trying to talk the gun out of her hand. But there's no excuse for committing that kind of violence on somebody. But I want to get back to why I'm covering the story. It's because there's so many misconceptions among our readers, and I want to try to help clear them out. And what do I know about this shit? Well, here's what I know about this shit. I'm 45 years old. I've lived a lot. I've seen a lot, and I've been paying attention. My mother was a child welfare worker and dealt with family violence and brought a lot of it home and told me about it. And it was easy to see the trauma that she saw secondhand. A lot of it spilled over. My wife is a prosecutor who's prosecuted a lot of domestic violence cases, and she's defended domestic violence survivors in Washington, D.C. as well. And the thing about this stuff, and the reason I didn't want to cover it originally, is this is nothing special. Being a violent asshole does not make you special. It happens all the time. Violence and death are just like shit. We don't talk about feces all the time because it's not interesting and everybody does it and it smells bad and it's repulsive. Well, violence is the same thing. Human beings have this allure, this fascination with violence. We don't have the universal disgust response that we have to feces, but we should if we had any sense. And as somebody who covers cage fighting, I wonder, why do I care about this? Why do I love cage fighting so much? Why do I love martial arts? Why do I want to see violence? And violence is a part of the human nature, human DNA. I don't know enough about the evolution and the science to really definitively say, but my impression is this is something people do. We fight, we kill. And the cage serves as a way to contain that violence and to control that violence and to channel that violence. And training in martial arts serves to marshal that violence, just like military training. I think everybody ought to serve in the military for a couple of years. I think we ought to have an all-volunteer army so everybody gets the picture and understands violence and aren't awed by violence and aren't fascinated by violence, because it's just an ugly reality. That's all it is. It's a tool. Sometimes it can be useful. Sometimes, in very rare occasions, more often than not, it's destructive and stupid. And that's why I didn't want to talk about this, because this is boring. War Machine is not a notable fighter. He's a guy who has potential because he can compel people's attention. He's got some potential because he's a fairly good fighter. He had promise. I think at this point, his career is probably over unless some amazing evidence comes forth that clears him. I never want to see this guy fight. If he's convicted of what he's accused of, I never want to see this guy fight again. I don't want to support him. You know, we've egged him on through 2 prison sentences. I had hopes that the guy had learned something. His prison blogs, I felt like he was learning something, and that he had stepped back from the kind of completely boneheaded and stupid and atavistic advocacy of violence and alpha maleism. You know, this was a kid who thought violence could solve all his problems, and he advocated that position publicly and frequently, and it landed him in prison. And then in prison, he wrote these heartfelt blogs that I sympathized with that seemed to indicate he was learning something and that he was changing. Well, from his behavior and from the allegations by Christy Mack, the lessons didn't take. Maybe he stopped fighting people in public, and good for him. But you know, when you're beating the person you claim to love most, that's an epic fail. That is an epic fail. These are the people you are supposed to protect at all costs. That's what civilization is all about. That's the reason women put up with men, you know? I mean, men are basically savages and would live in fucking cardboard boxes in alleyways. Except, you know, I mean, that's the reason I work, is so I can have a wife and a family, because that's what makes life worth living. Nice things, gentle people, good, loving contacts. And when you turn on your own family, and everybody does it, I mean, you know, whether it's in anger or in coldness, I mean, nobody's perfect, and people always lash out at the people that they love most. And the people that you love most see your worst side. However, do not raise your hand ever against a woman or a child. It's not worth it. It's never going to end well. D.H. Lawrence, the author. So there's nothing so humiliating as beating a woman. This was an admitted wife beater. I mean, you know, there is shame in being a wife beater, but it doesn't damn you to hell. I mean, D.H. Lawrence was a wife beater. John Lennon was a wife beater. Lots of otherwise accomplished and wonderful people have done horrible things, you know. There's no... I'm not a Christian, but Christians believe there's no unredeemable sin. St. Peter was a murderer. So I'm not trying to condemn anybody to hell. I'm just saying these are the acts they call sins for a reason, because people suffer, you know. War Machine's out there on Twitter, and he's feeling sorry for himself. I'm trying to go in order here, and so I want to get to my next point, and that's that this is not Christy Mack's fault. I don't care what you think about her profession, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I don't care what you think about her judgment. If she was my daughter or my sister or my friend, I would have advised her from the get-go, do not get involved with this asshole. You know? However, she did that. She made that choice, and it was clear from their behavior on the Ariel Helwani show and different things, their public statements, you know, she'd made public allegations that he'd assaulted her, that it was a volatile relationship. You know, and she's chasing her karma. She can't help who she loves. People are drawn to other people, and it's beyond their control. Okay, I'm a romantic, I guess. I believe in that. It's instinctive and it's subconscious, and you can't help who you love. Now, you can choose to stay away from those people and that's a hard choice. And that's not the choice she made. She says she broke up with him in May. He disagrees. Whatever. I don't give a shit. You know, if they were broken up when he appeared at her house at 2 a.m., that is completely criminal behavior right there. She has every right to throw him off the grounds, every right to call the police. She didn't have a restraining order against him, but that's the reason to get one. So showing up at 2 a.m. and his bullshit story about, oh, I wanted to give her an engagement ring. Well, maybe she didn't want to marry you, asshole. I wanted to help her with her big show the next day. Well, she didn't ask for your help, okay? She didn't invite you to her home. You don't have any right to go in and assault whoever she's with and then assault her and threaten to rape her and kill her and the other charges she's made, which are horrific. I just want to say it's not her fault. No matter who she dated, no matter who she loved, that does not justify this savage assault. Nothing justifies a savage assault like this. She could spit in his face. She could cheat on him. She could cheat on him in front of him. Does not justify it. Does not. Period. And we live in a rape culture. And some of you don't like that term because it gets abused by the PC police. I'm not going to say it doesn't. And fuck the PC police because they're liars too. However, there's a reason. I mean, political correctness is a way of living together in a society with people who are different from us. Men and women are very different. We've got to come to terms with a way to live in a society that's different from the society we evolved in, and different than the society that our grandparents and parents lived in. Women have more money, more freedom, more rights, more power than they've ever had. And that's hard for a lot of men to adjust to. Meanwhile, the economy's collapsing and men have less opportunities than ever in living memory for Americans. And so men feel marginalized and desperate. However, when you see things like this horrible date rape case in Steubenville, Pennsylvania, and the defenses of the asshole child molester Jerry Sandusky by Penn State supporters and fans, you realize we live in a society where when the strong prey on the weak, it's celebrated. People love strength, and they hate weakness. Even the weak, especially the weak, hate weakness. And so we turn on those who are weak and victimized. And that's bullshit. That is fucking bullshit. You know, people watch torture porn like The Temptation of Christ, and then they go out and they crucify the next Jesus that comes down the street. They rape the next woman that comes down the street. They laugh. They join in on throwing stones at the prostitute. You know, like Jesus said, let he who is without sin throw the first stone, and nobody raised a hand because they were there in front of Jesus. And I don't believe he was the Savior or any supernatural bullshit. I don't even know if he existed as such, but somebody did those things and said those words that were written down about. And if they were not, amazing fictional account that I find a lot of truth in, but that's well off topic. But so I just want to say the rape culture thing. That's why we got to emphasize, no matter what lapses in judgment she may have made in choosing to associate and love this person, she did not deserve this attack, period, ever. And if you say that she did, and you say it because she's a whore anyway, and she's in porn, well, you know, porn is a weird, fucked up thing, and our society isn't ready to handle it. I mean, you know, we've in America, we've lived in this Christian ethos for 2,000 years that says these kind of public displays of carnality are a sin, and squelch them from the pagans. And you know, the Romans were pretty uptight about sexuality. It's just they weren't as uptight as the Christians. This idea that it was this hedonistic free-for-all in Rome, no, they were very moralistic people. But you know, I think it's pretty fucked up that porn, the act of giving somebody sexual pleasure, is seen as somehow completely beyond the pale, and yet beating somebody senseless in boxing or MMA or football is celebrated as the highest form of grandeur. Soldiers, we get up and salute, you know, see a soldier in the airport, thank you for your service, sir. Well, you know what soldiers do? They kill people. They fucking kill people, and that's it. They're noble because they take on that sin for us and protect us. They're ignoble when they turn that on innocent people in our name, okay? And there's something deeply fucked up about a society where a woman who provides sexual pleasure for the people she works with on video and the thousands and millions of people watching it, many of whom then turn around after they're finished masturbating and call her a whore and are disgusted with themselves and project it onto her. So fuck you. You know, I watch porn. It's great. Get over it. Everybody watches porn. It's fun, you know, and it's either illegal or it's not. And in our society, it's legal. Let's make it semi-honorable. Do I want my daughter or loved ones to be in that industry? No. But should she grow up and be the kind of person that's so sexual that that's a valid expression of her real identity and not some kind of attempt to flee from fucked up problems or desperately seek attention, well, then go for it, kid. Sex is awesome. You know, somebody like Christy Mack has amazing gifts. She's a beautiful physical person. She's an athlete just as much as War Machine. I don't think porn performers are actresses or actors. I think they're performers. It's fucking hard to do. War Machine tried it and washed out. He was okay on camera, but he couldn't control himself. He allegedly assaulted dozens of people at a party by Brookhaven so that nobody in the industry wants to work with him anymore because he's a feral animal, okay? You know, you're too dangerous to be civilized in that environment. MMA was the only outlet for him. And, you know, somebody like Brett Rogers, who served his time for assaulting his wife, I'm fine with him fighting in the cage. You know, do I feel like a promotion should put huge dollars behind him? I'm pretty iffy on that. But if these guys can't fight in cages, what the fuck can they do? You know, we've got a system where you get convicted of a felony and you've got a big red letter on your head, and we never forgive you and never give you a second fucking chance. I think that MMA is an outlet for violent men and violent women, and we need that. But some people are beyond the pale and cannot be controlled. Lee Murray, for example, the armed robber. You know, he was a great fighter, but too much of a scumbag to have anything to do with. And Copenhaver, I'm afraid, has crossed that line. If he doesn't turn himself into the police and do his time, I never want to hear from him again. You know, and so I want to say it's not just Copenhaver either. The Josh Grisby case and the allegations of him that he turned his pit bull against his wife are horrific and awful, and completely unforgivable. You think about Thiago Silva putting a gun in I believe it was in his ex-wife's mouth, taking a loaded gun to a gym where children are training. Completely unacceptable bullshit. But Thiago stood up, did his time, you know, worked his out with the legal system. I'm fine with him fighting again. He did his time. Grisby needs to face charges for that shit and work it out. And maybe, you know, I don't know if he's redeemable or not. I don't know what kind of prison sentence he's going to get, if he gets one at all. And that's the thing. The justice system is tilted against women in these situations. It just fucking is. Juries don't believe their testimony. It gets into a he said, she said context, and it's very hard to get these convictions. I know. I hear about it from prosecutors. We know lots of prosecutors. That's who we hang out with. That's who we are. And I know these people, and they're reluctant to take these cases because they're fucking hard, and they want to get wins, and they want to get, you know, cases where they have clear evidence and they can convince a judge and a jury to serve the Senate, you know, to impose a sentence that fits the crime. And so, you know, we'll have to see what kind of time Grisby does, but he's not on the run like Copenhaver. And so another thing I want to get to is people like Ken Pavey and Phil Baroni that are going on Twitter and defending this guy, and fans who are getting on Twitter and believing his stories. Here's a fucking truth. Criminals fucking lie, okay? I've dealt with criminals. I've known criminals. I've been friends with criminals. My wife prosecutes criminals. I've read about criminals. I've watched movies about criminals. And I got sick of it because they're fucking boring losers for the most part. And they lie. They fucking lie. Thieves are the worst. But somebody like Copenhaver with a criminal record, never fucking believe a fucking thing he says unless you see physical proof that it's true. You know? His story alone is not the basis of anything. Okay, this is not a credible person. He is not. He's a multiple-time convicted felon. Now, does that mean I don't have sympathy for him? No. Does that mean I can't see his side of the story and feel for him? No. Does that mean I want to see him in prison if he did these things? Hell yes. You know, I mean, you could feel for somebody. That doesn't mean you don't think they ought to be punished for what they did. It doesn't mean you should believe their bullshit. So for people like Kim Pavey and Phil Baroni who think they're his friends and think they're supporting him by saying stupid shit like a lot of the blood at the scene would be War Machines. Well, Ken, were you there? No, you weren't. So shut the fuck up. The only thing you should be saying publicly to War Machine, I shouldn't be calling him that, to Copenhaver, is surrender. Turn yourself in before you get hurt and before somebody else gets hurt. Surrender. John, we care about you. We want you to surrender to the authorities. That's all you can do. They're going to get you. Dog the fucking bounty hunter is out for him. And you know, Dog's a celebrity hound and all that shit, but he's also a real professional bounty hunter with a real professional bounty hunter organization. And I'm glad he's out for him because the cops don't have the money or resources to go after this case. That's why we have people like Dog, because they can make money going after an asshole like this. A dangerous, scary asshole. You know, Copenhaver's a 2-shotgun guy. I wouldn't go near him in a confrontation unless I had a sawed-off shotgun held and pointed at him. Like, I wouldn't even, just because I had one nearby or one pointed away, fuck, if he's within 20 feet of me, he's probably going to take the gun away from me. You know, this is a dangerous fucking person. Incredibly dangerous person. At that Brookhaven party, he allegedly beat up 15 or 10 guys. Like, this is an incredibly dangerous person. You know, you need professional bounty hunters. I think there's scumbags for the most part, but hey, you need them. They function within the rules of our society. So go get them, dog. You know, I loved it when he got Max Factor. He's famous for a reason. Get him. Sick him. And Ken Pavia and Phil Baroni, if you care about this kid, all you need to be saying is turn yourself in. Okay? That's all you need to be saying. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. Because you weren't there. You don't know what happened. It doesn't look good to defend an asshole like this, because it's not good. And my last point, for my readers and commenters who think that the moral thing to do is to make jokes about, I hope he gets raped in prison, I hope he gets tortured in prison. Fuck you. That's bullshit. That's the same attacking the weak as you're accusing Copenhaver of. Okay? It's despicable to attack the weak. We admire martial artists because they fight other martial artists, because they're brave. We admire soldiers because they fight other soldiers, because that takes bravery. You're putting yourself in the line of fire. Attacking a prisoner and rooting for the torture of prisoners. Prisoners, by definition, are helpless. They're in chains. I don't care what kind of fucking monster they are. I don't care if it's Ted Bundy or Adolf Hitler. Once they're in chains, they're in chains. Now, some of these assholes are so dangerous, I'm for capital punishment in extreme, rare situations. If you're the kind of asshole that can gin up a genocide in Rwanda, fuck you. Hang them, you know? But your average murderer who killed somebody in a convenience store robbery got wrong, we can control that guy. Jeffrey Dahmer, unless you let him serve you drinks, he was completely fucking helpless. Celebrating the death of Jeffrey Dahmer at the hands of another prisoner, bashing him to death with a mop wringer, is horrible. It's the same thing as crucifying Christ or killing any victim. You know? Once somebody's helpless, they're helpless. They're a victim. Stop fucking blaming the victim. When you make jokes about prison rape, it's not funny. Okay? Prison rape's horrible, and it happens every day. It's horrible. It happens to the weak. It happens to the disenfranchised. It doesn't happen to the big badasses that you think it's going to happen to. Copenhaver's going to go to prison, and he'll be just fucking fine. Okay? Because he's a dangerous fucking dude. You know? He could get turned on. He could get shanked. He could get beat up by a whole bunch of guys. He could fuck up and get hurt. But on the whole, he's probably not going to get fucked with because he's a dangerous guy. Okay? So don't celebrate it. It's fucking evil and it's wrong. So shut up about prison rape. It's disgusting. And the last thought is, Copenhaver, turn yourself in, dude. And do not try to pull some suicide by cop bullshit. You know, I believe your dad was a cop and he died in your arms. And I feel for you, man. If you're out there and if you're watching this, turn yourself in before you hurt yourself. People do care about you. Phil Baroni, Kim Pavi, all these other people, they care about you. You've got fans, people that you mean something to. They care about you. Christy Mack, maybe she doesn't care about you anymore. Maybe she does. Maybe she has it in your heart to forgive you. You've already disgraced yourself if these allegations are true. Stop disgracing yourself. Don't make some cop have to go home to his family after he shot you dead, okay? That's a fucked up, shitty thing to do. Don't do that to somebody else. Go out like a man. Stand up for what you did. Said, I did it. I'll take the charges. I'll stand up in court. You know, maybe it won't be a fair trial. Ha ha. What's your idea of a fair trial anyway? I mean, let people present the facts, and you'll get the trial you get. That's the society we live in. You know, there's probably not a fair trial for you because you're a multi-time convicted felon, and you're notorious. So everybody's going to know all about you. It's not like the average case where they're sleepy and not paying attention, and nobody gives a shit. People care. Nonetheless, I'll be sad if you kill yourself by cop, no matter what I think of you. Because I think you had some potential as a human being, and you're wasting it. It's not too late, man. You're still alive. You can turn it around. Worse people than you have turned it around and made positive contributions to society. You can still do that. The only thing that matters in this world is giving back. That's the only thing you can do is give. Stop taking and give, man. So, not that anybody cares, but those are my thoughts on this horrible, sordid, stupid topic. It's far too common. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of being criticized for covering it. We're covering it for money. I'm not going to deny it. But people care about this shit, and you know what? It's fucking important because people need to learn to not do this crap. It ruins the sport, ruins your life. Don't do it. You know, if you're a kid, you're a man, anyone. You know, I mean, I'm not perfect, but walk away. If you're so angry with your wife or your kid or your mom or whoever, and, you know, even your dad who's big and scary and tougher than you are, don't escalate it. Turn away, turn the other cheek, walk away, take a walk, calm down, don't get drunk, don't get high, read a book, watch TV, call a friend, walk, take a walk, get away from there. You know, you can always walk away. I don't care where you are, you can always walk away. Walk away. All right, MMA aficionados. Dallas Winston, Zane Simon, and Conor Rubish are going to be back with the MMA Vivisection later today to get back to sport and the beauty of fair, honorable sport, which is what mixed martial arts is. And, you know, mixed martial artists are human beings. They're special, volatile, violent human beings. And when they fuck up in a big, bad way. So, you know, take care. Don't fuck up. And adios, MMA aficionados. This is Kid Nate.